I've decided maybe I would talk a bit about some of my paintings. Perhaps I make this a series where I talk about the process behind the painting, how I made the painting, what's behind maybe the meaning, the context. Because what we often see in a painting is simply the surface. For example, with this one, I have quite a bit to say. This is perhaps one of my favorite works, and I may tell you a bit today about this picture right here. So, as you can see, this is sort of like a canine creature, maybe a fox, though a bit more wolf or wolf dog. And then we have this really nice alpine landscape in the background. For some reason, I always draw mountains and these pine forests and hills and meadows because that's just something that I really, really like. So that's something that I will often include in my paintings. And actually very rarely use references. For example, this one is entirely from my head. That is because I draw pretty much daily and I draw very, very much. So that is just normal for me. I just have it in my muscles practically. I have drawn ever since I can remember practically. So, yeah. What's pretty interesting about this painting is that this is a time a few days, not exactly a few days ago, but pretty recently, I have filled up my sketchbook and I have no more spare paper. There's of course craft the sketchbook, but that's a bit time consuming and tiring, and online school is just driving me mad. And surprisingly enough, as a procrastinator I am, this is absolutely horrible for me, but that's another topic. Anyways, for this painting, since I have had no possibility to draw physically on paper, which is my usual habit, I've decided to draw again on my sketchbook, digital sketchbook. So, the program is called Sketchbook. I have used only one brush actually to make this entire painting, because just with different, obviously, size and opacity changed, but this is all one brush. It really shows you the possibility of a single option to make an artwork. What inspired me, I'm not exactly sure. It started out as a doodle. I was bored, so I just started drawing this sort of wolf, and then it evolved into this. Usually music inspires me a lot to add a certain tone or add something to the painting that sort of gives its final look or motivates me to make the painting. And for this one, I was listening to a specific mix on YouTube. I believe it was called Wagner's. How am I supposed to pronounce that? I'm so confused. But basically, Wagner's Preludes and Overtures, a really, really nice mix. Might link it. I really enjoy his music, and this inspired me actually to do this. I also added this sort of sunset kind of color scheme. I'm pretty intuitive when it comes to colors, so if there's this pink, I will, it's just natural that if you have warm colors, this ultramarine, I believe, goes very, very well with this sort of rosy pink, as you can see, because this is sort of like a sunset, or sunrise is more of a sunset, I think. That's what I thought when I made this. These beautiful, peaks. I just have this whole imaginary landscape in my mind, and then I just put it onto screen or paper. But yeah, I really enjoyed making this painting. It was a very long process because it started out with this brown color, and then I added a bit of blue, a bit of Prussian blue, this dark blue over here. That's how it started. I started out rendering the eye, and then I sort of rendering the whole fur, and yeah, making the whole thing. But it was a lot of fun making this one. I just thought that maybe I would say that. I could really go on about this painting. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to see, a lot to say. And though I may have praised it a bit right now, but I must point out mistakes. So this is something that I've noticed just a little bit after. While the colors are all very, very fine, the ears, I believe I may have placed a bit in a wrong place. I believe that maybe it's ears are not too anatomically correct. It was really a struggle for me to find exactly where the ears are supposed to be. I believe they maybe should have been a bit more to the side, but when I saw this mistake, I was already practically finished with the painting, and it would be a very, very long and exhausting process, and I might have just ruined the painting instead of, making it better, because this is many, many layers. So I couldn't just clip it and then sort of like put it here. That would be useful if I was still in the sketch period, but unfortunately I only came to notice this later in the process. Though otherwise, I do think this turned out pretty well. And yes, though if you see some mistake, please do give me some constructive criticism. I always appreciate criticism and advice, because next year I am going to art school. So because unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, I am unable to go to my extra art classes with my teacher, who would otherwise give me some advice and help me with my portfolio. So if you happen to stumble upon this video and have something to say, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, if you just think the painting looks nice, that is also very, very much appreciated. Anyways, I believe I have said enough, and yes, goodbye.